find the mummy.
Don't worry, the mummy will find you.
You'll howl as you follow Bud and Lou in a strange land where exotic dancers perform ancient rituals. You'll scream at this mystic world of mad magic and uproarious adventure.
Does this mean anything to you?
It means death to whoever holds it.
Starring Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, with sultry Marie Windsor giving you your first look inside Costello.
Turn off the lights.
Let's stop fooling and cut 'em open. And Peggy King, George Gobel's TV girlfriend.
You flew in from the Middle West and certainly impressed the population hereabouts.
Imagine Lou trying to be charming to a snake. And Bud at the end of his rope.
Stop blowing!
Your nerves will jangle as they tangle with terror, meddle with murder, and try to elude a curse 4,000 years old.
I was dynamite! Get rid of it! No! What is it? Dynamite!
All right, guys, this is Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. This is 1955, which means I don't know because I lost my paper of Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll. So I don't know how far this is from the other one, but whatever.
I think it's like 2 years later. I think Jekyll was 53, wasn't it?
Okay. Maybe. For some reason, I don't have my paper.
I believe so. Jekyll was 53. Yep.
Jamie, you were the most disappointed in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Abbott and Costello, so how do you feel we're going with the peaks and valleys here?
I think this one starts climbing back up the peak.
Cool.
After how I feel about Jekyll and Hyde, it's really hard not to.
What did they do right that Dr. Jekyll didn't do right?
They had Abbott and Costello. That was a big one. I think there were a lot of really fun gags in this one. At one point, you had 3 mummies running around. And even though the mummies didn't look good, I mean, they did really bad.
Yeah.
Actually, someone on IMDb compared the mummy's face to leftover egg roll, which I think is pretty accurate. The mummy looked terrible, and you could actually see that it was like a one-piece costume that they were wearing. But I did love the fact that you had 3 mummies running around, 2 of them real people, one of them the actual mummy, and yet they would end up scaring each other. But then you could always tell which one was the real mummy because he's like,
yeah, the 2 would be afraid of the real mummy.
Yeah. And we have this, one of my favorite gags ever is when they're digging a hole in the sand and he's like, here, what do you want to dig with? Take your pick. And
that was great.
So yeah. Abbott he takes his pick, which is the shovel. He picks the shovel, and then he's like, "That's not a pick. That's a shovel." And he's like, "You told me to take my pick. That's my
shovel's
pick.
my pick.
But that's not a pick. That's a shovel." And so then he takes them from Costello and says, "Here, take your pick." So Costello takes the pick, and he's like, "See, your pick is the pick." He's like, "But that's the only pick. The other one's a shovel."
Yeah, it was great.
And it's that's one of my favorite gags because that's funny. And then we have the gag where they're eating the hamburgers and he hides the medallion in the hamburger and they're swapping them back and forth.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous and it's the best because
it's totally funny.
The way they look at each other, like once they look at it, they look at the other one like that snide look, like this fucking guy put this thing back in my burger. And then it's like they both know what they're doing, yet they're not just going to look at each other and go, dude, why the fuck are you giving this thing to me again? No, they're going to sit there and go, she's not as pretty as that girl over there. And they will turn completely around to look at her and hear, like, what the fuck?
And the fact that Costello would actually bite this burger and still chew through this fucking medallion.
And then bite it repeatedly.
And he even says, "Can I see yours?" And he bites his, and it's perfect, and then goes back and eats it anyway.
Abbott lets him eat the burger.
Right.
And then to get the X-ray scene where they're trying, she's like, "Where's the medallion? Give me the medallion." "I can't give it to you. I ate it." "You ate it with ketchup." Which he clearly did not put ketchup on that burger. He put salt and pepper on it. But,
pepper.
You know.
And then no, that sauce is how he got it in the burger.
Oh, that's right. He dumped it on there.
It must have been ketchup, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Okay. But then so they shake him up to see if
And they're spinning him like a roundhouse. Yeah.
And he threw him through the ceiling. That was so funny. Yeah, this movie is chock full of fucking bits. Like, this is the last Abbott and Costello movie for Universal Pictures. So they probably said, let's throw everything at him but the kitchen sink.
Right.
Like, every gag in the world is in here.
and then they're including them using their real names, even though that's not how they were credited in the film. They call each other Bud and Abbott and Lou and all throughout, and you get the classic "Hey Abbott," which you've been waiting for. Through all of them, if you're an Abbott and Costello fan, you wait for that. But you know that you're not going to hear it because that's never their names. And only in this one, you do get to finally hear the, "Hey, Abbott."
Well, what do you guys think of the overall production here? Now, to me, I always, whenever I picture this movie, I think of it as the cheap movie of the 5 monster movies because it's the lighting. The lighting is very bright.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? There's not much shadow here. And I don't know how to credit that. Like, I don't know what that means. Is it a poor production?
Well, I was thinking about that while I was watching this, and even though you do have, and like this, the outside set with the sand is clearly a set. It is, and it's a very cheap set. But then you have all these people, like for the dance numbers, dressed in costume and full regalia.
Right.
They actually made sarcophagi to put the mummies in. They clearly did put money in it somewhere. So I guess maybe they had to cut corners in other places because they wanted to spread it around. But I really dug the dance numbers.
Oh,
that they had,
dude, when they're beating the shit out of each other.
Oh, yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
There was like a dance thing where they slap each other around and throw each other and shit. But what about like that look, that bright look? Do you think that they're trying to convey like tan, sand, brightness, big, empty?
Yeah, that's exactly what I got from it. They're trying to show, the heat of that place. So obviously the sun is bright, so everything's fucking bright.
Right. I think that's what that is.
To me, it never really looked hot. It never really looked
right.
Like the heat was very imposing for them to be in the middle of the desert. But then I thought, well, it is in black and white. So maybe that's a little bit more difficult to convey in black and white. And so they just make everything bright, and that's supposed to, I guess, give you the feel. But nobody ever looked sweaty or worn out or, or like the sand was hot.
Right.
So, Dave, what do you think about this one? This is the final one. You made it through the whole journey of the Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters. How are you feeling at this point?
Well, I agree that they did definitely bring it back a little bit with this one. Yeah, it was just a lot more fun than the previous one. They were in it. It was lots of jokes, lots of gags. It was nonstop. I can say that. The plot, I was a little bit lost in it. I didn't care too much about the transportation of the thing, and I get that's probably just me that got a little confused. That happens sometimes. So I was a little bit confused, not to the point that I wasn't with the killer, but that didn't fuck up my enjoyment of the killer.
Yeah, there were like a bunch of people trying to do something, and you kind of get lost in who's with who.
Yeah, and all the transportation of the mummy, and this one was doing something for this reason, and this one had another motive. I wasn't 100% sure what was happening, so initially, when I first started watching it, because of the way I felt about Jekyll and Hyde, I wasn't so sure where I was going with it. It was weird because they had narration at the beginning. I was like, this is strange, Yeah, and then the movie begins, and then the plot is what it was, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to think about this. But as I fell into it, and, the gags were aplenty and the jokes and everything else, I was fine. I didn't try to confuse myself too much with trying to figure out the plot. I just figured, well, I guess it's going to be kind of like The Killer. And it was a little bit action-adventure-y type, which isn't really my cup of tea. But the comedy was so overwhelming with a lot of it when they were on the screen, then that it was still enjoyable. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they kind of dismissed a lot of shit that goes on in mummy movies. The whole thing about mummy movies, what they really, sort of like with the Wolfman, how he always focused on dying and shit. With the Mummy, what they always focused on was how they're going to keep this guy going. And it was always about the tanner leaves, like whether or not he's drinking tanner leaves, or whether or not, like whatever the fuck they do, or the scrolls, the way they read shit to make him come back to, like whatever it is. It's always focused on how they're getting him moving around and then doing tasks. In this movie, they just open the coffin and he's already awake. Mm-hmm. And just like kind of, it's like there's no effort at all into reviving him in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
The whole thing is about the medallions missing, and that was never, I don't think, an issue, medallion or whatever. But it was cool how they had it and they brought it to places and people were freaking out and shit and people were trying to get it. I'll pay you this much. Oh, really? Okay. Well, then I'll sell it for $15,000. Shit like that. That was funny. It was a nice little adventure type thing. They went with a couple of the gags again, like hiding behind the curtain, and we're gonna hit the curtain, and it's gonna be Abbott again, just like they did with Dr. Jekyll. That's pretty funny. That they redid the gag where they hide the bodies again when they hit the doctor. And he's like, back up, back up, back up, and like people are falling for the tape. Meanwhile, they're looking at Costello when they enter the room, and he's saying, I got a gun, back up. And they all back up. But they're looking right at I don't even know what they thought they were listening to.
Yeah, that was crazy, right?
That was just so strange. It's a recording. Let's go get him. It was funny when Costello took a picture of Abbott with the dead body, and then his picture's in the newspaper, and everyone's after him. And that was a gag that they took from Abbott and Costello Hit the Ice. There was a bank robbery, and Costello took a picture of it, and everyone's turned around, and the only person that you could see is Abbott. It's like, what the fuck? And so they sent that off to the newspaper. And then there was one really cool scene where Costello keeps doing this thing with the flute, and snakes keep coming out of pots.
Oh, that's great. That's a good gag. It goes throughout the movie, too.
And at the end, Abbott gets the girl.
I was going to say, finally!
Yeah, right.
And Costello gets a snake.
She comes out of the pot, and she's just willing to make out with whoever's standing there.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah, but how cool was it when he went up that rope in midair?
And once again, you see, what's her name? The thing with the woman, the return of that gimmick of the woman coming after Lou. And it's a fucking a dupe once again. It's a recurring theme. Does that happen in the other movies besides these ones, Alex?
How a girl always likes Costello, not Abbott?
Well, they like Costello, but they're always using him for some reason.
Yeah, because he's the idiot, and he's always the stooge.
So this stooge thing, it's an ongoing thing through all their movies, not just these.
Oh yeah, that's him. That's him.
Okay,
this is their shtick. It always has been.
And that's how he always does get the girl, but he gets the girl because the girl has an ulterior motive, and she knows he's the stupid one.
Right. Well, then it makes sense. That's why they would go to him. He's easier to take advantage of. So that makes sense. It was funny though.
What are your favorite scenes of this movie?
Okay, number one, we already mentioned the dance scene. I love that. I love the whole X-ray scene. I love that to death. That makes me so happy. I love
Shake me up again.
Shake me up again.
I swear it'll be there.
And when they do the X-ray and it says "help me" inside, oh my god!
And what about when Abbott goes, "Hey, I lost a tie pin. Can you see if it's in there?"
I lost a tie pin 2 years ago.
That is the greatest line. Like, people just like whatever. That is funny shit, man. Like, how obnoxious are you, dude?
There's that. I love the scene where they're switching the body of the mummy out of the sarcophagi, and so they replace it for the one guy. So they take the one guy and they bury him under the ground. And then the other mummy gets buried under the ground by the other guys before they switch. So he's trying to bury this one mummy, and the other one keeps popping up and looking at him, and he's hitting him in the head with the shovel. And then the other one pops up from the other side, and he thinks it's the same fucking one popping up on the other side. And he's hitting it, saying, "I guess I didn't hit him hard enough." All that stuff, dude. I was rolling.
Yeah, it's funny, man.
Oh, and he found the midget mummy. when he's digging the hole.
Midget mummy, Awesome.
What about when Costello was going to grab that chick's ass, man? When she was laying on
that
the
was
thing?
what I was going to mention. I love that when he first comes across that he thinks she's a real woman, and it turns out it's a statue, or actually like a mannequin. You see him like. He raises his hand as if he's about to smack her ass, but then he just he thinks better of it and walks away. And then later on, this woman is hiding, pretending to be this statue, and he raises his hand again like he's going to smack her ass this time, and then he ends up using his hat. But I love that scene because it's very overtly yet still subtly sexual. That he's like, I'm going to smack her ass.
And she kicks him. She boots him fucking 20 feet into another statue or some shit. And it's like, why would she do that? She's giving away her fucking spot there, It's like, but she doesn't give a shit. I think at that point she goes, just get these guys. Oh no, wait, he hits the thing, and then the medallion, right? Or is that the medallion scene? When the medallion comes out of it, right?
She kicks him against the wall?
Yeah, then all of a sudden the medallion comes out of this pot or a goat's head or some shit that was there, and that's how they find it?
Right. Yeah, that reminds me, I love that whole thing when they're in there and someone's inside the lion's head up on the wall.
Yeah, that hand comes out.
The pickpockets.
What the fuck was that?
Fucking
She's like,
just
well, when they killed that lion, he had just recently eaten someone. Yeah, they forgot to pull the guy out.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, yeah, the humor in this is fucking great.
Lots of one-liners. Back to that. Back to a lot of them, Like the first one. The first one had a lot of them, I think.
Yeah, but this one, I think, even has more than all of them combined.
Right. There was a lot of wise. Yeah, it was good. How about he goes fucking, how stupid can you get, she tells him. He goes, oh, how stupid do you want me to get?
They have another joke where they say, did you ever go to school, stupid? He goes, yeah, and it came out the same way. That's just great shit. Yeah, the obvious only problems with this movie is, like Jamie said, the fucking mummy costume. Like, Jack Pierce must be rolling over in his grave. Like, when he saw that, the thought and care he put into Boris Karloff and even the second guy, and I think he also worked with Lon Chaney in his mummy movies. When you look at that compared to this fucking Party City overall shit, it's bad. And the fact that these two could dress up as the mummy, and I love how Abbott tries to play it off. He goes, look, there's just enough bandage here to make me look like the mummy, as if they're wrapping each other up here.
Right.
It's like, guys, we're not stupid, please. That's the one problem. But how about what do you think of the effects of this movie? Like, there's one scene where this gigantic lizard is chasing Costello.
Oh, boy. Oh, that was like fucking... Oh.
You mean that iguana?
Yes, yes. That was like those old fucking movies.
50 sci-fi
Oh,
movies.
my God. It was bad. It was really fucking bad.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, you can watch something now, like a fucking sci-fi CGI thing, and it looks just as fucking bad.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Look at the alligators in that movie Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger. How fucking bad could you get besides that, man? That's the worst.
Christ, I haven't watched that movie in like 10 fucking years.
Yeah, right. What do you guys think? Like when that bat was flying down the hallway, did you keep hoping it would turn into Dracula?
I was. I wanted him to fucking change.
I love it. They reference Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein in almost every movie. Invisible Man, they say Frankenstein and Dracula. In Dr. Jekyll, they're in the Wax Museum of Frankenstein and Dracula. In this one, there's a vampire bat. And what's the only other one? That's it. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's all. Hey, guys, remember how good this one was?
Yeah, right. There's a little bit of that in here. Here we go. So then you get to the big climax, which is fucking hilarious to me. I don't know if you guys found it funny. The lady starts shooting the mummy, and then she does the classic, well, if my bullets don't kill you, I'll throw the gun at you.
Right.
And then you get to the most hilarious shit, where she takes a fucking torch and just proceeds to beat him over the head with a torch.
Yeah, I'm not going to think to set his bandages on fire.
No, not at all.
I'm going to try to club him over the head with it.
So the torch lands next to TNT, which they were using to blow something up.
They were going to steal...
The treasure.
The treasure. I think they were trying to blow up the statue to find treasure.
The mummy's walking around with a gigantic thing of TNT. It's lit. They're all fucking standing there, and they're trying to talk to this thing. Like, Clarice, if you do this, you'll die, and you'll bring down the entire temple with you. So the mummy just looks at him and throws them the thing. Costello gives it to Abbott. They throw it back. The mummy just blows the fuck up. The whole temple doesn't go down like they thought. And then the treasure's there. And it just really abruptly ends. And they're like, wow. So the treasure, blah, 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 and Karis is gone. And all we have left is something. And then Abbott's like, well, we can, why don't you tell everybody about it and we can have this keep going. And he goes, how do we do that? And they open up Cafe Claris.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes up for what just happened.
Right.
Oh, that brings me to a question for you, Alex. Seeing as how the mummy in this film's name was Clarice, and then the original mummy was Karis, do you think that was an intentional nod, or do you think someone fucked up and they meant to name him Karis, but they did it wrong?
I believe it was a way to separate it from the world of the Universal movies. I think I really believe these were all standalone films. As much as I like to say that it's all part of it, and as much as they tried a couple times, like in Invisible Man and shit like that, I think they really treated these as separate entities, and I think that's part of that.
I agree with that. I mean, I think they were trying to allude to it for fans, but didn't want to make it the same.
Yeah, they didn't want to technically do it. Yeah. Yep. So we already talked about the ending gag. They all have gags at the end. The worst one was Invisible Man in terms of making sense. The worst other one that nobody enjoyed was Dr. Jekyll. In this one, it's the snake's coming up, and one's a girl and one's a snake, and Abbott finally gets the chick. So that's about it. So how do we rate this one? This should be a more positive entry. So Dave Z, how do you rate this?
Well, like I said, they did. This was a nice bounce back from the little hiccup that we had in the last one, in my opinion. And it was funny. It was confusing a little bit for me. For some reason, I don't have it on the same level as even though it's reminiscent of The Killer to me because of the confusion and a lot of jokes. It did have a lot of jokes, which was nice. Sometimes it's almost that they were trying too hard with it. But it was fun. It was just a little more action than I'm used to watching, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just I don't have it quite as high as the others, but it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'd say 3.5.
Okay. Jamie D.
This was a nice return to the Abbott and Costello that I love and the pure comedy that I love. They had some great gags here. This is one that I was familiar with already. And I'm going to say it's not quite as strong as, say, Invisible Man for me. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay. Ryan.
See, this reminds me of the Abbott and Costello that I grew up watching. Okay, this reminded me of those gags they would always do, and this was more funny than the rest of them, more consistently funny, we'll say. All right, so much so that there was so many gags thrown on, and like Dave said, it almost feels like it was a little forced, like saying the last one we were barely in that fucking thing, so we're going to be all over the place in this thing. So that's what they did, but during the whole thing, I'm digging the shit out of it. The story of it, I think, is kind of fun. I love seeing them do the crazy shit they do in these fucking movies. But so, I'd give this one probably a 4.
Cool. All right. This one, oddly enough, is the one I watch least. It's the one I consider to be an Abbott and Costello meet horror monster the least. Probably because it is so funny. And I think of it as the cheap one because of the lighting and because of the way the mummy looks. And I feel the mummy was most out of character compared to... Because the whole idea about Abbott and Costello meet a monster is that the monster plays it straight and Abbott and Costello are two goofball assholes, and that's not going to change just because a vampire or a monster or a werewolf or an invisible guy is in their room or anything. They are who they are, and that's it. So I always feel like there's like components missing to this to put it as a genuine entry. But it is, nonetheless. It's the last. And maybe those things just go in my head and make me feel different, which is why I watch it the least. But I think after this time around, I was so in the zone, blasting through all 5 of these, that I was way into this. Nothing was wrong with it. I loved the comedy. I am buying into the idea that the brightness is to sell the tanness of Egypt. And it would look cheap because it's very empty. But that's how things are in Egypt, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like those empty big rooms. I mean, it sort of seems like they captured the feeling. And even walking through the streets when they were doing the snake gags, I feel that felt real to me. I'm going to give this higher than I thought I would, and I'm going to give it a 4 also.
Right on.
So there we go. So we'll be right back to wrap up this overview of Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters in our special Abbott and Costello Meet the Skeleton Crew. We'll be right back.